welcome back to the Ask IITians. Since we had in the previous class discussed about the introduction of the chapter, now is the time when we should move over to the next part. So in today's part, I'll be telling you something about the Arrhenius theory for the electrolytic dissociation. So in this Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation, that's the basic of the chapter, which will be used further in the later half of the chapter. Let's start with the chapter now.
Okay students, let's now start with the new topic, which is Arrhenius theory. This Arrhenius theory, first of all, will try to discuss the Arrhenius theory for the electrolytic solutions. And in the Arrhenius theory, we generally say that the compounds which give ions either in the molten state or in the solution are known as electrolytes. This is what we discussed earlier also. Like for example, if I take a solution of NaCl. So if for example I am taking a solution of NaCl, I will say that I'll dissolve NaCl in water and this will give me Na positive, Cl minus, and you will also have H positive and OH minus. So all the compounds which are going to give ions either in the molten state or in the solution, such type of compounds are known as electrolytes. So instead of taking an NaCl solution, you can also take a molten solution of NaCl. So if we take the molten solution of NaCl, that means we are just taking Na and Cl. So the molten solution of NaCl will have Na positive and Cl minus, and there won't be any water molecule which will be present in the solution. So in the solid state, for example, if I take NaCl solid, now in the solid state, these are known as the bad conductors of electricity because the ions are not at all free so that they can move, and because of which there should be the conduction of electricity. But these solutions itself, they become very good conductors of electricity once they are taken either in the molten state or in the solution. So for example, if I am taking NaCl solid, I say that if you try to put the two electrodes and if you try to see if the current is flowing or not, you will say that if you take molten NaCl, then there will be conduction of electricity. If you take NaCl solution also, then also there will be conduction of electricity. But if you are simply taking only and only solid NaCl, there won't be any conduction of electricity. Also we say that when an electrolyte is dissolved in the solvent or it is melted up by heating, it spontaneously starts dissociating into the oppositely charged ions. And this is what we have shown. Like for example, if I am taking another example of H2SO4, this is an electrolytic solution. If I dissolve it in water, I will say that there will be 2 H positive and there will be one molecule of SO4 2 minus which will be there in the solution. So this H2SO4 as a whole, it gets dissociated into the oppositely charged particles. The positively charged particles in this case are known as cations and the negatively charged particles in this case are known as anions. And it is because of these charged particles itself that any electrolytic solution is able to conduct the electricity. Let's move ahead to study more about Arrhenius theory. It says that the electrolytic dissociation or the ionization, it produces some equilibrium between the unionized molecules and the ions in the solution. So this is what we have studied right now, that if I am taking NaCl, this is undissociated NaCl, and if you dissolve it in water, you will say that you will have an equilibrium between the oppositely charged ions Na positive and Cl minus. So these are the ions which are present inside the solution, and this is undissociated molecule. So there exists an equilibrium between the undissociated molecules and the ions in the solution. Now the degree of dissociation of any electrolyte alpha is defined as a fraction of 1 mole of an electrolyte that has been dissociated. So what I say in this case, for example, if you have any electrolyte, let us say NaCl, and if I am dissolving it in water, what do I say in this case? That NaCl, it gets 100% dissociated into its corresponding constituents, like you will get Na positive and you will get Cl minus. So that means if I am taking just 1 mole of Na positive, I will be getting 1 mole of Na positive and I will also get 1 mole of Cl minus. But the situation doesn't end here. We also have certain other kinds of electrolytes. For example, I have another solution, let me say H3BO3. This is not a strong electrolyte, and if you dissolve it in water, then we can say you will have 3H positive and BO3 3 minus, and there is an equilibrium between the two. Now in this case, what do I say? If you are taking 1 mole of H3BO3 and if you are dissolving that 1 mole of H3BO3 in water, it doesn't mean that I'll get 3 moles of H positive and I'll get 1 mole of BO3 3 minus. This is not the case. That means if you are taking 1 mole, it's not necessary that you will be getting 1 mole each of the corresponding ion. So what does it mean? It simply means that rather than one complete molecule which will get dissociated, there is just a fraction of some of the electrolyte which gets dissociated. So we can say that, for example, if it is HX to form H positive plus X minus, rather than 1 mole of HX to give us 1 mole of H positive and 1 mole of X minus, you have some fraction of HX which gets dissociated, not the complete dissociation of HX takes place. So this is what is dealt in the Arrhenius theory of electrolytes. Now what are the factors on which the value of this alpha depends? And this alpha is known as the degree of dissociation of the weak electrolyte. So I call it the degree of dissociation. And degree of dissociation means that if you have 1 mole of an electrolyte, rather than giving you 100% dissociated product, it gives you some fraction of the product. Now the value of alpha has been found to depend upon the nature of electrolyte which you are taking. It also depends upon the nature of solvent which you are taking. It also depends upon the dilution, and it also depends upon the temperature. Now we'll take into account all these 4 factors one by one, and we'll try to discuss more about them in little more details. Let's first of all talk about how the value of alpha is dependent upon the nature of electrolyte. So we have to find out what is the relationship between the nature of electrolyte and the degree of dissociation alpha. We say that some electrolytes, for example, when I am taking mineral acids, when I am taking alkali solutions, and all the salts if I take, they have a very high degree of ionization. That means this is what we discussed, like for example, if you have NaCl, which is salt, if you have any mineral acid, for example HCl, or any base, for example NaOH. So what do they do? They will completely get dissociated into the ions. HCl will give you complete H positive and Cl minus. NaOH will give you completely Na positive and OH minus. So that means the degree of dissociation or degree of ionization for such kind of electrolytes is 1. They are almost completely ionized. So they are known as strong electrolytes. So any such type of electrolytes which gets completely ionized or which gets completely dissociated, so are known as strong electrolytes. Now the number of ions of strong electrolytes is very large, and thus the solutions of strong electrolytes are found to have a very high conductance. This is what we can conclude also, because if there is something, if you are taking 1 mole of something and it is going to give you 1 mole of it's 1 mole each of its constituents, so we can say that the number of ions which will be available in the final solution will be so large. Now if the number of ions in the solution is so large, that means the conduction of that solution will be large, and hence they will be called as the high conducting solutions. Now there are on the other hand, if I talk about some weak electrolytes, they are found to have very low conductance. And why is it so? For example, I take the example of acetic acid. Now if I take the example of acetic acid, I can say that you have CH3COOH, it gets dissociated to form CH3COO minus plus H positive. Now if you are taking 1 mole of acetic acid, it doesn't mean that I will be getting 1 mole of acetate ion and 1 mole of H positive. Now if you are not getting the equal numbers of as much as you started with, that means the total number of ions which will be present in the solution will be less. And if the total number of ions present in the solution is less, that means the conduction of electricity by that particular solution will also be less. And hence these kind of solutions are known as weak electrolytes. So we can conclude that on the basis of the nature of electrolyte, the value of degree of dissociation matters a lot. If you are taking a strong electrolyte, the degree of dissociation will be almost 1, so alpha will be called equal to approximately 1. But if you are talking about a weak electrolyte, then alpha will be called as very less than 1 and it will not be equated to 1. Let's come over to the second factor, which deals with the nature of solvent. So what is there in the nature of solvent? If I take, for example, I am asking that you have NaCl solid, and if you put NaCl in water and you put NaCl in some other organic solvent. So I say that any particular solvent which has a tendency to weaken the attractive forces between the cations and the anions. That means if a solvent has a maximum tendency so that it can dissociate the two cations and anions in such a way that a large number of cations and anions are obtained. So those solvents are said to possess a high dielectric constant. And dielectric constant for any solvent is nothing but it is the tendency of any solvent to break the two oppositely charged particles away from each other. So if I take water, I say that water has damn good tendency so that it can separate the A positive and B minus apart from each other, and hence more number of ions will be produced in the solution and the solution will be more able to conduct the electricity. And any such solvent which possess a very high dielectric constant is said to have, like for that particular solvent, the electrolyte will have a very high value of degree of dissociation. So any solvent of high dielectric constant favors the dissociation of electrolyte. On the other hand, if you are having a solvent which has less dielectric constant, so it will not do anything so as to dissociate the molecule apart, and hence the degree of dissociation for the molecule also decreases. So the second factor which is responsible for the value of alpha is if you take a solvent of high dielectric constant, alpha will be having a good value. If you take any solvent which has low degree of dissociation, or if you take any solvent of low dielectric constant, that means for any such solvent the value of alpha for that particular electrolyte will be very less. Let's try to come over to the third factor which talks about the dilution. So we say that for some electrolytes, if you consider into account, the degree of dissociation will increase if you make the solution more and more diluted. And this is nothing but this is an application of Ostwald's dilution law which we'll be using up in the further chapter. So we could wait here for 2 minutes so that we can start up with this Ostwald's dilution as a further topic. And according to the Ostwald's dilution, if you consider a weak electrolyte and if you try to dilute the solution of a weak electrolyte, the degree of dissociation for the weak electrolyte will increase. Now the fourth factor which is responsible for the degree of dissociation of any particular electrolyte is the temperature, according to which if you increase the temperature of any solution, so generally the degree of ionization increases. For example, if you take a solution of NaCl at 25 degrees Celsius, or if I take a solution of acetic acid, for example, which is a weak electrolyte, I am taking its solution at 25 degrees Celsius. For example, it is found to have a certain value of degree of dissociation. Now, if you increase the temperature to say nearly 45 degrees Celsius, so there is 20 degree rise in the temperature, then that only solution of acetic acid will be found to have a degree of dissociation, say Y. Now, according to the experiments, it has been found out that the degree of dissociation alpha, which is Y in the second case, will be found to have a very high value as compared to the X. So, it is a temperature also which plays a crucial role in determining what will be the degree of dissociation for any particular electrolyte.
Students, this was all about the Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. I hope you would have understood the concept nicely because we had done the questions also for the same concept. Now, using the same concept, we'll move further in the chapter and we'll start discussing about the different types of electrolytes. So, I hope to see you soon in the next lecture where we'll be discussing about the electrolytes and their different types. So, by the time, take care and do well in your life.